And we're going to continue with old growth forests and to Carpathians. And I'm very happy to introduce my colleague Hanna Öllös, who will tell us a bit about two Interreg projects that the European Wilderness Society is involved in.
Thank you, Jonas. Let me share my screen. So what do you see now? Normal? Is it the good one? Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Andre, again for presenting. It is truly very fascinating and very exciting what you do, and I always like to hear about the current work that you do. So actually, I was planning to go through my presentation beforehand for preparation, but I just couldn't help to listen to yours. So in this a couple of minutes, I would like to talk about two ways of cooperations focusing on protecting biodiversity in the Carpathians and in the topic of primary forests as well. So to start, I would like to take you on a short excursion to the beautiful Carpathian Mountains, then a threat to their biodiversity, and also touch on ways and possibilities towards its protection through cooperation. First, let us put this Danube Carpathian region on our mind map. Let me just briefly introduce the Carpathians to see what are we really talking about. It is truly a great area in Europe. It is inhabited by millions of people, but it is also an eco-region that is recognized by the conservation community as a hotspot for biodiversity and as a region of global importance, characterized by its forests, as Andre described, by rivers and wetlands and its flora and fauna, from large carnivores to some very rare fish species, such as the beluga sturgeon, for example. You can see here a map of this region, the Danube Carpathian region, bordering, here you would see the bordering Italy, and then the Adriatic Sea, of course, all the way basically to the Black Sea, bordering the Balkans. So this arc is the Carpathians. They are largely running through the Danube area, but as well the Vistula and the Dniester are also part, as well as the Black Sea basin, as I mentioned before. The green in this map is the connectivity, represents connectivity and green infrastructure, which is, of course, an important topic. So in this region that we saw are the Carpathian Mountains. They are the second biggest mountain range of Europe, besides the Alps. And again, a paradise of protected areas, virgin forests, many endemic plants, big animals, but also Central Europe's last wilderness areas are within this mountain range. The Carpathians are not just there for themselves. They are, of course, very important for the water cycle of Europe and an ecological backbone of the continent. Some impressions really about of what we are talking about. Two pictures. On the left, you see the high tetras. On the right, the Romanian Carpathians. So these are the highest mountainous ecosystems within the mountain range. But of course, we have lower parts of it as well. It's just these two pictures kind of represents the peak in terms of elevation. Of course, this beautiful ecoregion is exposed to threats due to development and land usage. The Carpathians is, as I mentioned before, really the largest and pretty unfragmented region of Europe. So increasing fragmentation is threatening, again, biodiversity, so causing loss of biodiversity, tourism pressure and unsustainable waste management are an issue, but also poaching and pollution, climate change, as well as intensive agriculture and so on. These challenges are now to bring development and conservation and protection together, to provide basically a living space for millions of people without endangering sustainability. And another challenge is maybe to use this opportunity now in this strange world that we are in due to the pandemic to really just appreciate such natural ecosystems and look at them as an example of resilience. So the question is how to address sufficiently and effectively such threats that are posed to this outstanding ecoregion. As we see in Europe, nature conservation policies and management cultures vary strongly among different countries and also within the Carpathians, and therefore it is not enough to work on a national level. It is highly important to form cooperations on an international scale. And not only on an international scale, but also it is important to look at conservation from the point of view of various different sectors, as many things basically have to come together in order to bend this curve that we are in. And I think that people are, of course, an important and essential factor in successful cooperation. So it is important to present the partnership that is behind Central Parks. We have protected areas, national parks involved, education institutions, NGOs, as well as research institutions. And we started last year. The project duration is 3 years. Apart from these 8 partners, we have also 8 associated partners. That's why it's great that we have the outreach not only on Central Europe and Romania, but also, for example, in Ukraine through the ministry. And we work within these 7 countries, and we have 13 outputs planned. So what is really the objective of this project? Our project corpus came not from the direct threats that I mentioned before, illegal logging, poaching, and so on, but mostly indirect threats. So the root causes of these indirect threats are mostly unsustainable economic chains in the region. Our main objectives, therefore, are improving integrated environmental management capacities of protected area administrations, also linking conservation of biological and landscape diversity to local development, and on the long term also to promote the Carpathian network of protected areas as basically a long-standing framework that could be an umbrella for these protected areas to cooperate. As we are in the middle of our project, I'm not going to present a lot of outputs. It's mostly just to introduce what we are currently working on. Our main aims in the last, in the last 1.5 years, and also in the second half of the project, is to involve local communities to raise support, and through them basically reconcile nature conservation to local development. We will do that, or we are working on various strategies for biodiversity protection on local level, sustainable tourism, and communication between protected areas and local communities. So basically we are working more on a theoretical level at this stage. We are, of course, also encouraging transnational networking, also with other international Carpathian projects to harmonize what we are working on, and not only within the Carpathians, but also border areas bordering the Carpathians, and to reach out to other transborder protected areas within our project. We are also focusing on developing various innovative technical tools to try to design basically also guidelines to include nature conservation planning into existing planning within protected areas, so existing management plans of protected areas. And we are also developing a Carpathian ecosystem services toolkit to train our stakeholders. The role and a big aim of the project that we are working on is to revitalize the Carpathian network of protected areas, which was a network established many years ago, but has been a sleeping network. So we want to restart this cooperation, to restart the main communication mechanisms within the official decision-making board, because we also realize that our project is 3 years long, but the protected area managers have to be able to cooperate on a long term and have to develop their own ideas and networking skills. They have to manage to maintain relationships between each other so that they can mutually benefit from such a network. And they can share environmental information, resources that they have, and basically even obtain guidance or exchange or organize, for example, excursions in each other's locations. So this is a big challenge that we are working on, to activate this network, to activate experts and organize roundtable sessions. We have the support of the Carpathian Convention for this. So we are definitely working on this, and we are working on basically developing new ideas, drafting new Carpathian project ideas for for the partners. I've just informed that I have 10 more minutes, but I'm finished with introducing this project. The other project that the European Wilderness Society is working on actively in the Central European region is the project Beach Power, which is focusing on World Heritage beach forests, empowering ecosystem-based sustainable development for World Heritage beach forests. A quick look into what are these primeval forests that we are focusing on. Andre already introduced a lot and talked a lot about beech forest and mixed beech forest. Beech is really an exceptional creature. They can form forests of pure stands. They are one of the oldest trees in Europe, and they have a very outstanding history. They basically 12,000 years ago recolonized, or started 12,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. Basically, Europe was covered by thick snow, and forest only survived in really limited refuges. And since then, beech has managed to slowly recolonize the whole continent. And it took basically several thousands of years for it to reach the Baltic Sea, but it did. And of course, it provides habitats for over 10,000 species and mushrooms and plant species, as well as animals. However, 99% of these beech forests in Europe have already been lost. And this large-scale disappearance is, of course, due to human intervention. Today, we have just a limited number of untouched primeval beech forests. Therefore, in 2017, the UNESCO World Heritage Committee inscribed the ancient and primeval beech forests of the Carpathians and other regions of Europe to protect these last jewels of forests in Europe. This UNESCO inscription includes a selection of different beech forests, 80 different component parts in all beech forest regions, and the extension process is ongoing. The main challenges among these component parts of this UNESCO site is that increasing usage conflicts between stakeholders are active in all countries. There is no adequate buffer zone in place. Also, because of the UNESCO inscription, there is likely an increase in visitors attracted by the status, which also provides a pressure on the ecosystem integrity of these forests. So there are difficulties to manage the effects of this World Heritage inscription in terms of personal resources and adequate expertise. It's a challenge to meet international requirements. It's more a challenge for some countries than others. The project aims to develop ideas, to develop relevant models and tools to support protected area managers in the management of these component parts. It also focuses on actively engaging stakeholders in the management of these component parts, to integrate component parts in regional environmental management, and of course to just overall exchange, increased active exchange. Our project partnership in this project also includes various protected areas, basically administrations of component parts. So let it be national parks or forest institutes, as well as city administrations. And we have a university and assessed communication partner. We started with this project also at the same time as Centralparks, so we are in the middle. We are working within 5 countries, and within the Central European region, we have various pilot areas in beech forest component parts. And as the last slide, basically our aim and what we've been doing in the last 1.5 years is to try to involve more and more local communities in World Heritage regions to integrate the World Heritage concept and status into regional development plans, to increase participatory processes. So we organize a lot of workshops, meetings involving stakeholders, and we focus within these workshops also to work on conflict management between various different groups of stakeholders, and together with them form working groups that will outlive the project, so that will come together annually and discuss questions of visitor management, of visitor communication, of sustainable forestry practices, and also to support these component parts. We are working on developing a kind of a quality standard, which is more a code of best practice for the management of these component parts, on how to improve their management quality, how to cooperate effectively, and how to use really this UNESCO network and this inscription for the benefit of the forest and for the benefit of biodiversity also, as well as for the benefit of local communities. So that was quickly touching on these 2 projects. Thank you for your attention. As I didn't really go into detail about our outputs, and as they are still in the process of being developed and worked on, I think the best for you to get the latest information about these projects is to visit our website as well as social media, and then you can keep being updated about our latest achievements. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, of course, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much, Hanna. Yeah, so now on Tuesday, we heard from a very different part of the world, what the World Heritage has done to protect the forest in Tasmania. And now we've heard what we can do to make that World Heritage count and to support the goals of the World Heritage. We're soon going to succeed with our next presentation. We're just waiting for the presenter for a few more minutes. So if you have any questions to Hanna, please don't hesitate to ask. I think we have a question here. All right, Arjun, do you want to ask something?
Yeah, so no, I asked in the chat, so good introductory talk on mountain ecosystem conservation. So I wanted to ask, like, what kind of approach you would be using, or you want to use, Hanna? Like, would it be like based on some keystone species, like few important plants or mammals, or like some other animals, or like it will be entire ecosystem based approach? So basically, what kind of conservation approach will be used?
Thank you for your question. We are not focusing on any keystone species within this project. Both projects, basically both Centralparks and Beach Power, focus more on empowering the communities around these valuable areas. So we are taking an ecosystem-based approach, and we are trying to conserve these or protect these ecosystems from a point of view of the local communities more, and also from a theoretical point of view. So we are working together with a lot of experts from various different countries within Centralparks, from basically all Carpathian countries. We have experts, conservation experts, working together and sharing ideas and sharing their experiences from their countries. So the challenge that we have is really to put all of these ideas and all of the different rules and regulations and guidelines of these different countries into one pot, and kind of create strategies and guidelines that will work for every country, not just for one, and that will work on an international level, not just on a national level. So just shortly, we don't focus on any particular keystone species. And Arjit wrote in the chat, good to know broad ecosystem and social based approach. Yes, we support that kind of approach rather than focusing on one keystone species. I don't see any other questions, so thank you for your attention, and I give the floor to either the moderator or to Zoltán. Yeah, thank you again.